You're different, David. I can tell.
All right, well, let's, okay, again, I want to apologize for that. For a guest
well,
of your magnitude, it is
I'm used to, lackadaisical efforts by people, so.
all right. And I'm going to do my best after this post-production wise to turn, what's the expression, turn chicken shit into chicken salad?
Something like that.
Vice versa.
I don't eat mayonnaise, so I don't know.
All right, good. So I want to talk about relationships in building your business that you deal with on a day-to-day basis, kind of go over a couple key relationships. And I think that number one, I want to ask you, you've been married for 25 years. That's a long time.
Yes, I have.
That's a long time. You got a beautiful wife. And so you were married before you started this venture. Tell me this, like, was your wife a wrestling fan? Did she play a supportive role in starting the business and growing the business? Or did she just say, you go do your thing? Or was she totally against it?
No, she was okay with it. She wasn't a big wrestling fan at all. She used to watch, like, if China was on, she became a wrestling fan. Like, she would sit and watch Monday Night Raw because she liked China. She was beating the shit out of guys, and she talked about when she was younger that somebody had, like, mentioned to her to maybe get into wrestling, to go to Japan. But she never got involved, never did it. But once we started it, she became very helpful in the early days because we needed somebody who we could trust to run the door. So at the Silver Nugget, my wife ran the door all the time. In the early days, Rocky's wife and my wife did it, but she kind of drifted off. She wasn't a big fan of the whole wrestling thing. So, even going into Sam's Town, my wife was always there running the merch. I'm like, oh, did you check out the show? And, she'd be really pissy and say, well, how could I check out the show? I was stuck up doing the merchandise,
Right.
And she never got to see a lot of it. And then she ended up getting a job in the best shifts as a bartender. She had Fridays and Saturdays swing shifts. So, she didn't get out of work till 11:30. So she wasn't going to take off, make a couple $100 or, deal with a bunch of people. And if she was lucky, I gave her $20 because, what was I going to do? I can't pay her $100 to, but she was trusting to be at the door. And that's why now you see me at the door the whole time. And I also try to get everything in advance and stuff like that. But, she's good with it, Initially, it was kind of like, we would never, it would always be money would be put out. And at least nowadays, not that, there's big money coming in, but there's never money going out anymore.
Right. So she's supportive and kind of let you do your thing at this point. It's just,
yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Because I've been in relationships where it's like, they don't understand my creativity drive. And I don't think that they have to have your same passion, but they have to understand your passion, right?
Being with my greatness 24 hours a day should be a present enough. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I do concur. And then also we want to talk about your son. This is a family business. Your son, he handles most of the production now. And I've just seen him.
He's your boss now, ain't he?
Yeah. I guess he's my boss, I guess. All right. But I've definitely seen a growth in him, not only as far as duties, but his confidence and, kind of the direction that he's taken. How is that? I mean, to me, it would be a dream come true to work with my son on a day-to-day basis.
Well, I look at it as for him, it should be a dream come true to work with his father. But I digress. He has come a long way. He's another one of those, 20-something emo kids, who, he's a little more emotional than me. So he's a little bit more like his mom. His highs are high and his lows are lows. And, I'm pretty evenly keeled. Like, oh my God, what a great show. And it was like, yeah, it was pretty good. It's like everybody has, to me, it's like everybody has a lower barrier. It's kind of like the fan who goes up to somebody, oh, great match. Oh, the match kind of sucked, but our show. And it's like, I know the show wasn't that great, but they're entertained by it, but they're not looking at everything I'm looking at.
Right.
So as fans, they love what they see, and it's great that they love it. But maybe it's better that I don't believe that everything is perfection, because then I wouldn't work as hard to try to get to a certain level. You know, it's kind of like the Mecca shows became a different brand off of FSW, because as a wrestling fan, I was trying to see if we had the ability, like a lot of other states, when they run big time shows, you know, are we capable of doing that? Because Las Vegas in reality is considered a shit market. WWE doesn't come out here that often. When I used to talk with the Godfather, who I worked with for years,
Hold on. We're tapping into your son and your relationship. You segue.
Oh, okay.
You segue.
You cut me off on that.
Yeah.
But yeah, production wise, like I said, he started early on, and it was like, oh, Dad, take me to Best Buy. I got to get this editing thing. And it's like, you're editing video games through YouTube? So you're telling me there's idiots in this world that want to watch your edited play game of a video game of Call of Duty or something.
Right.
And, you know, it turned out he learned how to edit. When we had all the washouts who were claiming they were editors doing our TV program, my kid stepped up for a while. And at that time, he was probably 17, maybe 18 years old. And, you know, now he's 25.
Right.
Now he works for a YouTuber guy, makes good money, editing videos, you know, doing a lot of hanging out at the mansion, you know, Molly Mall's old mansion down off Russell.
Right.
That guy leases it. So besides doing all that, now, you know, if you check out some of the stuff on YouTube, he made some great video packages. When you look for the buildup of Matt Hardy versus Brian Cage, it's like, wow. You know, I ended up seeing that again like a few months ago, and I'm like, man, this was some really good shit, you know? And now we got the Mikey guy who's also helping out a lot and doing a lot of that work, and Owen Travers, but Joey kind of coordinates, you know, like even with stuff with you, trying to help with the sales and trying to get sponsors and doing stuff. As I said, in the past, I would handle everything. Like even when I used to talk to you about doing stuff,
right.
You would talk to me. Now it's kind of going through him, and you'll hit me up like what's needed. Hey, how does this look? But I've kind of been able to, instead of doing a million things, now I do 500,000 things, which at least it gives me the freedom and a little bit more time to do some of the other stuff, because shit would get lost. You know, shit would go by the wayside. You know, we had a long time where we didn't have any sponsors because it was hard to get the packs out. And as you know, a lot of people aren't wrestling fans, so they're not going to they don't care that there's 700 people at a show at Sam's Town when they should care. And we're offering a great price for somebody to sponsor. And as you can see in the background there, you know, we were able to get a canvas that we didn't have to pay for because we had 4 sponsors. And do we make a lot of money off it? Absolutely not. But it looks fantastic. You know, Joey's also, you know, because of the money he's been making, he's also went out and bought studio cameras instead of really nice HD handy cams. Mm-hmm. And he bought a 3-play machine that the old esports place was getting rid of. That's worth like 10 grand, but Joey got it for, you know, because the guy Andy that we work with. So it's become connections. He meets the guy Andy who runs the esports, who handles the production. So now we can do live pay-per-views. The same thing with us being connected with Impact and Ring of Honor and getting our guys in matches. So he handles all that, and he's able to get connections with the photography and all the other stuff. And I get to handle and spend more time. Of course, he tries to get involved in the creative. And, oh, I got this great idea. It's like, yeah, okay, write it down. Email it to me.
Right. So, I mean, I would definitely think you are proud.
No, absolutely. He does a great job. You have to get on him a lot of times.
Right. I think that's with any kid. I always, like, and since my son was born, I always try to push him to wrestling. I'd bought him the figures. I tried to take him to shows. He just wasn't having it ever.
Yeah, my kid was like that with sports, baseball, things like that. Like I grew up, but, you know, I love baseball to this day. But he was more of the video game mentality. You know, at 5, 6 years old, though, he used to go on the computer and play his, you know, his little fish guy games and all the other stuff. And, you know, he was pretty proficient with a computer at 6 years old.
Right. Well, I think definitely looking back, I mean, sometimes we're just in the moment and it's just day-to-day operations. But when Joe Defalco, if this day ever happens, because I think you may live forever, man. But when you when you're on that bed, you're gonna look back and just like cherish those moments of him at ringside or him behind the scenes with you. Like that's a beautiful thing, man. I'm just telling you that, and I applaud your guys' relationship. I also see you guys bicker, which is
well. 8 months ago, I thought I was having that with the open heart. You know what I mean?
right. Yeah, we almost lost you, man.
Oof.
Let's ask about that. So that, I mean, was the situation. You're obviously healthy. Things are good.
I guess. I feel okay. It's like I try to tell people beforehand. I had stents put in 2014, and I actually had pain in my chest, and it wasn't a lot. I'd walk. I remember trying to go up the stairs one day, and it was like a little tightness, or I was trying to take the cover off my pool to clean the filter, and it happened a few times, and I'm like, yeah, I need to go to the doctor. And it's kind of weird because I'm not a doctor person. If I don't feel bad, I ain't going.
Right.
You know what I mean? So, and then I went, and then they're like, oh, we got to put some stents in, blah, blah, blah. So they put in the stents. As I said, I went in on the Monday. I think they did it Tuesday or Wednesday. They let me out Friday, and we had a show that night. And it was funny because at the time I was working an angle with Rocky T about the ownership, and Kevin Kross had just become my personal, I wouldn't say bodyguard. He was more of my personal assistant.
Okay.
And even though I went to the show, I decided I wasn't going to come out and talk. I'll let Kevin handle it. And at that point on, I was like, well, he doesn't need me anymore. He can handle himself. And, and it's funny because now today, he debuted on NXT, and I guess Joey was just telling me while we were waiting, pretty much had a great entrance, laid the guy out, and, he's going to be a star. He was a star in Vegas. He was a star, then he became a star in Mexico and Impact. And, he has just become a star everywhere he's gone. And I don't see any differently with him here. So.
Well, I think, yeah, that's definitely a amazing success story right there. And I want to get into that. I just want to throw one more name at you real quick. But in the event of your demise, not that anybody wants that to ever happen.
2057. What are you talking about?
There you go. All right. If I'm still here, may I be the designated survivor and take over?
Probably not.
All right, cool. Another relationship that you deal with on a constant basis is your business partner, Rocky T. Shout out to Rocky T. Can you kind of tell the difference in the roles and how you guys get along?
We get along fine, and that's mainly because Rocky T lets me do my thing. Sometimes he gets a little anxious, wants to be a little bit more involved and stuff, but he understands what we're trying to accomplish, and he allows me to do my thing without interference. And that's the most important thing because, a lot of people aren't going to be a 50-50 partner and okay with many people talking about, oh man, Joe Defalco did this, Joe Defalco did that. And it's like, what about me? I'm Rocky T, brother, and whether deep down there's any animosity, it doesn't seem like it to me. He's excited. He puts over the company. He does his little things. He does his little promos.
What you gonna do, brother?
He likes being involved. His job has always been to handle the ring crew. And in all honesty, I can't do it. He's able to, he gets that steel cage up in 10 minutes. Typically, he could do things that I can't even think of doing. So the partnership is good in that way. Obviously, we'd all like to make more cash out of the deal, but neither one of us ever did it as a way of like, man, I'm doing this. We're going to be rich. We're going to run an independent wrestling company. He runs his security company. I was doing my thing. The wife still works, and it's like, we're just grinding it out, doing our thing. And, probably, at my demise, my legacy of Vegas wrestling will be a far bigger deal than the money I leave my kid.
Oh yeah. No, I definitely believe that, and like a lot of people put too much on money and think that success equals money. But yeah, shout out to Rocky T, and I'm gonna do my best to get him on here because I'm sure he's got a story that needs to be told, and he might
Oh,
talk he might
he'll
talk
let
some
us
shit
tell it.
about you. So here's your
Oh,
chance
he
to
probably will.
here's your chance to get in some
You know,
jabs first.
he wishes he could be me. You know what I'm saying?
Right. No, but yeah, definitely. I want to get talk with him. I was at the school a couple weeks back before this whole thing popped off, and a new student came in and was like, "I'd like to sign up." And I was like, "Give me a second. You can talk to Rocky." And he's in the office cutting a promo and motherfucker this and motherfucker.
Oh yeah.
And he comes out like, "Yeah,
The IW heavyweight champion, brother.
right. So shout out to Rocky T. Definitely appreciate it. Now I want to talk about the relationship with the talents, which I've ran businesses where I've had like 30 to 80 employees. You got different personalities, different expectations, different goals from everybody. Everybody thinks they deserve a shot. So how is your working relationship with the talent?
Well, you know, in a lot of cases, you're going to say, man, he loves that guy or he hates that guy. Kind of like Trump. There's no middle ground. Everybody loves him or hate him. When it comes to me, I think it's they either love me or they're afraid of me. Because the people I got really good relationships with are the people who have no problem talking to me because I'm an honest person. And I have no problem explaining something to somebody. I'm not going to be an asshole about everything. But like if somebody asks me a question, I'll be more than fair. And I'll make sure that the positives will be accentuated. You know what I mean? I'm not going to be like, oh, yeah, well, that match was the shit. You fucking suck. Blah, 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 blah. You know, I try to explain people why things are and why this is this way and the way you run the business. You know, Kyle Hawk, for example, is always, hey, what do I need to do? Hey, what do I need to do? And it's like, I was honest with him. It's like, first off, you took my booking and then you canceled it because you found out your girl Desi booked you somewhere else. It's like, well, there's no excuse for that. You took my booking. Then you want to know why you're not on that next casino show. Well, I couldn't build anything up with you because you didn't make the show. You need to make FSW your first priority. If I'm your third priority, then why would I care about you when I got 30 guys and 15 of them are making FSW their number one priority? You know, there's 8 or 9 matches on a show. That means there's only 8 or 9 wins on a show. And I guess you could say unfortunately, but fortunately, our no limits division is so strong that you could be the number 10 or 12 guy and still win the title tomorrow and nobody would be surprised.
Right.
From Greg Romero, Nick Bugatti, you know, Jacob Austin Young, even though they're in a tag, Cody, you know, we kind of moved guys into tag teams just so we could avoid them being part of the No Limits division. We have Owen Travers, we have Ice Williams, we have Remy Marcel.
Well, tell me with all those names, how is it juggling egos and everybody thinking they deserve a shot? I know management, everybody wanted to be promoted, thought they were and it's like, there's certain things. What do you look for somebody? And this could be, you know, a heads up to anybody that's always thinking they're not getting their spot.
A lot of it is right place at right time. A few years ago, we had Cody involved in a feud with Jace Battle. And Jace Battle at that point started really connecting with the crowd. And we were sitting there at the Silverton and I'm doing commentary and we're watching the match. And it's like, wow, I would love to call an audible right now and make Jace win in front of the crowd, because the crowd reaction just for the near falls was amazing. And as over as Cody was, like the crowd was hot for Jace. We ended up pushing the belt on him down the line, which still worked out really well, but it wasn't supposed to happen. Thomas Day was another one. There was an issue with Greg Romero. Greg Romero became the No Limits champion. For whatever reason that was going on, there was very few heels for Greg Romero to wrestle.
Okay.
So made the decision to put it on Owen Travers, and then we were going to try to circle back at No Escape, but then Greg Romero broke his jaw. So then it got changed, and Damian Drake ended up getting it. Because, again, and no fault to Greg Romero's, but he was out for 3 or 4 months. So by the time we went back around, well, now it was Damian Drake's time. So, of course, he's, frustrated because he was expecting maybe it to be a little longer, and he isn't happy. And there's a lot of people that aren't happy, like where they're at. Like, oh, why is this guy here? In most cases, they're not going to confront me. In most cases, they're going to do what's asked of them. And the ones who do ask, I give them 100% reasoning for what we are trying to do. And if they don't like it, unfortunately, sorry, it's my company and it's my decision. Because, in wrestling, it's fake. So, and the term's always, he never earned the title. He was just given it.
Right.
Well, given it because of everything he put forth. So he may not have beat the person in a one-on-one match physically, because we know that's not how it is, but he was deserving. When you go through the list of guys who they became the champion, Hammerstone became the champion when he was ready and deserving. Kevin Kross was ready and deserving. No limits. Ice Williams has gotten hot. He was feuding with the right guy. We decided to make the move off Damian Drake to Remy Marcel. Hey, maybe 6 months from now, Ice Williams would have been perfect. But because he was involved already with Remy, we were able to continue what was going on. And now Ice Williams is the No Limits champion.
So is it, so you're always watching, definitely, like, and seeing. I think a lot of people, like, because they're not getting feedback, some people need acknowledgement and kudos.
They do. And unfortunately, sometimes that's what frustrates them, because it's not my job. And a lot of times, like, Remy would be my, like, he would be the liaison,
Okay.
I'm the Don, and he was, he was the consigliere.
Okay.
And, they'd be upset about something. And he would try to massage it when it got back to me, because I might be livid about what somebody might be saying. You know what I mean? And he's trying to explain to them the reasoning. And then he comes back to me, about certain things, because certain people feel that they're deserving. Or, you always listen to Remy Marcel, every time he comes up with them. It's like, bro, he has a million ideas. None are about himself. And I don't use 20% of them. But if it's a better idea, I've never had the ego of where I have an idea and you have an idea. If I think my idea is a little better than your idea, but your idea gets me to the same place, 99% of the time I'm going with your idea, because if I go with your idea, you're more interested in making it work perfectly.
Right. They're more invested. So do you like encourage them to speak up to you directly?
All the time. It's like a guy like Cody, I got a great relationship with, and because Cody isn't afraid to tell me what he thinks, and I'm not afraid to tell him what he thinks. When it comes to training, when it comes to, the day-to-day operations, if I can't be honest with you, it's my school. You need to do things my way. Sometimes things get a little heated. Sometimes, we've had to step in because, some people are hot-headed a little bit. Your boy Buck, we had to calm him down. He had some situation, a student who's maybe old school wise might have got beaten back in those days, but a lot of people are more sensitive nowadays. So they don't accept criticism, the way people 20 years ago, or maybe when these guys started. So that's what more the conflict, that Kyle Hawk wasn't kissing the kid's ass and telling him how great he was. So it kind of led to a lot of heat, between the two. And the kid said he's going to do this, and Kyle Hawk's going to do that, and blah, 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 to where, Sin Bodhi took him to Wrestler's Court and made him go to Chuck E. Cheese together to see how ridiculous they were.
Was that yeah, that's a shoot?
Yeah, I wouldn't make that up. You can make a story that they sent two wrestlers to Chuck E. Cheese.
I didn't hear about that.
But the kid is he's young, he's talented, he wants an opportunity. you know, he'd come into the office all the time and be, you know, upset or thinking he deserves a spot. And it's like, who do you deserve the spot over? You know,
Right.
say it's the Suavecitos. They're young kids. Ricky's quiet. Danny's a little more is feisty, you know, and he's in a very, very short time has had more matches than a lot of people, but he wants to be on every show. So you got to make them understand, bro, you're lucky the opportunities you're getting. You're going to hinder yourself, and you're going to hinder your partner if you can't control yourself. I don't expect you to be happy. I appreciate the passion and the desire, but you have to handle yourself as a professional.
Right.
You can come up to me and say, hey, Joe, you know, I appreciate everything, but, you know, I really think I'm deserving to be on this show at Sam's Town. And then I will rebut and say, you may be correct, but we have this many matches on the show, and the top tag teams like the Bonus Boys and Death Proof and Hammerstone and Graves or whoever it is, they need to have spots. In the Unguided, they've been doing it way longer. So Damian Drake and Matt Vandergriff are going to get on the show, and Sky High has been much improved over the last couple of years. So their pecking order is they may be the 7th best tag team. Well, if there's only spots for 5 tag teams, guess who's not getting the spot?
Right. Makes sense.
It's not going to be the guy who's been busting his ass for 70 years like Damian Drake, who has gone through the system, has been a No Limits champion, reinvented himself, helps out at the school, runs the kids class when I need it. When you do what is expected of you and you go above and beyond, you're going to get more than the guy who just works hard and just expects to be on a show.
Right. And I kind of think that's your style from knowing you over the years. It's like you're watching, you see who's putting in the work. Like I heard an interview you did years ago where you talked about trusting people, and like it takes a while to build that up and see that somebody's consistent. It's not like I just came in and did this so I can get this. It's you can see the actual effort that goes into it, right?
And with our training, because the majority of our younger guys are all from the FSW training facility. So when a Sin Bodhi or a Cody or a Remy Marcel come up to me, Kenny King, D'Lo Brown, because, you know, it is an all-star staff. You know, Tom Howard is involved with us now. He you know, trains Lacey Ryan, and he trained John Cena, Samoa Joe, and numerous others. If they say to me, hey, there's this young kid over here, hey, check it out. Like there's the one youngster, Damon, works hard, you know, but he's another one. Like, you know, he gets mad. You know, why aren't I on the show? Well, because there's 18 spots and there's 32 people that are trying to get those 18 spots. And you've been doing it for 5 months, and Fresco Maddox's been doing it for 2 years, and he's improved a lot. So I need to get him on because his faction is a main roster group that deserve to be on. And that's why I'm also okay with a lot of these guys taking other bookings, because it frees up spots.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's like I've told, because of the favors Hammerstone, Graves, Douglas James, Chris Bay, all these guys that they've done, it's like, you know, I'm not going to pay you as much as that other booking. So don't feel obligated to do the 2 or 3 shows we do. We have a student show. We ain't worried about you doing it. We have a regular high octane and say a casino show. You know, if you could do one of those shows a month, that's fine. They're still seeing you once a month. So Hammerstone, go out and make that big money because you're on MLW by working that show, instead of feeling bad because you're trying to work FSW, but you're missing out on a lot of money. I don't want to do that. But if you do miss that show, now all of a sudden Sky High got to be on the show,
Right?
Because those guys took another booking elsewhere.
Yeah, it makes sense. So I kind of see, like, knowing you over the years, your style is, if you don't say shit, you're good. Just keep doing what you're doing. If you say something, that's when there's a problem. So I've submitted work to you over the years, and I was like hyped, like, oh yeah, okay, wait till he sees this, and you're like, yeah, it's cool, and throw it to the side.
Yeah, it was all right. Yeah, I remember.
It was like,
It wasn't that good.
And people will say, oh, he's an asshole, but I mean, it's consistency, I think, that you look for in anything, right?
That's all you can ask for. It's like getting better and better. It's like, you know, I understand. I also see that as a big reason why we aren't spoken of as some of the other major independents like Defy, Wrestle Circus was that way. Our Mecca shows blow away Wrestle Circus. But Wrestle Circus would run once every 2 months and bring in all these big name guys, and they'd run 5-6 shows a year. We ran consistently, but we also ran a lot of smaller shows.
Right.
So, you know, if we ran 8 times a year, maybe we would be in that. But because of having the school and trying to give opportunities, sometimes we're looked at a lower level because there's 35 guys on our roster. Well, if I take 18 guys and make that the same roster on every single show, it'll be better than 99% of the rosters around the United States. But when you're trying to get Sky High and Fresco and Watson and, you know, a bunch of these younger guys, the Shaggies, you know, Shaggy's improved immensely. Now, would Shaggy be as good if he wrestled 20 less FSW shows last year? Or is he getting better because he's more confident?
Right.
He's got the ability to wrestle in front of people. People give a shit about him. He tries to be innovative. Well, now he gets that opportunity because he also knows, shit, if I fuck up tonight, I'm probably not going to be on the next 3 shows.
Right.
And have to worry about that. So by running more shows, and believe me, running a school show in front of 50 people isn't Joe Defalco lining his pockets.
Right.
It's taking 3 or 4, well, more like 6 hours, even though it's a 2-hour show, out of my day to try to give experience and opportunity. It's like the younger guys. When Greg Romero and Jacob Austin Young first started and they worked the dark match at the Silverton, well, were they ready? Absolutely not. But how would they get ready?
Right.
They didn't get to wrestle on any of these shows. So it's really a juggling act of trying to get people in the right place at the right time. Because bottom line is, can one of those young guys, Sky High, for example, lately they've had some really, really good matches. Well, I remember when we were first stepping them up, people were putting them over. Oh, these young kids, you know, we put them in with the bonus boys. They shit the bed, and it was terrible. And, you know, it kind of soured me on them for a little bit, but they took it to heart. They knew they had a bad match. But I've also seen Sean Ricker wrestle Kenny King and Brian Cage wrestle Kenny King. So I've seen Kenny King have 2 shit fests at our casino shows. But, you know, in general, 90% of the time, you know Kenny King's going to deliver. With the kids, if it's 40-60 that they're going to have a good match, you're lucky. You know what I mean? But the more experience they get, the better they're going to become. It's great having a practice match at the school, but what happens when you fuck up? You start over again. There's no crowd. You know, when you figured out the spot you're going to do, and then all of a sudden it's screwed up, what do? Well, if you're 2 inexperienced guys, you might stumble for a while, and that's when the fans start noticing that you fucked up.
Right.
When you're experienced and you fuck up, you kind of lead into something else and you cover it up as best as you can.
Right, and you just keep working through that. I think that's key also for any industry. Is like you got to own it, right? And then kind of understand. But you all are talking about putting in the work. Some like you can't rush it. We talk about the bulls coming down the hill again. It's a process to get to where you want to be. Is that correct?
Well, I look at myself as, you know, when I used to work at the clubs, I used to, you know, whatever I did, FSW was 24/7 to me.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and it's like, oh, yeah, the Vince McMahon of Las Vegas. And I'm like, yeah, minus 1/1,000,000th of the money that Vince makes. But the passion and the desire, I put more effort into FSW than I've done in anything in my entire life. And I am not going to reward somebody who I feel is lazy and doesn't want to put in the effort. You could be good, but if you're lazy, you're not gonna get to that level. I've seen guys that have, you know, no background, struggling when they started, but they put in the time and effort and made it a lot farther than athletic guys who kind of coast because they think that they're athletic and I could do this. Oh, this is nothing. And, you know, we've had a few guys that have come in and it's like, oh man, this guy, he's going far, and he never got a match because,
Right.
you know, you tell him, hey, do a leapfrog. Hey, do this. Hey, do that. Wow, this guy can do everything. And then it's when you put him in the ring and say, okay, have a match. Now he's kind of lost. It's like a football quarterback. You know, a guy can throw 70 yards on a dot, but he can't read a defense. And anybody comes close to him and almost gets in his face, you know, he just throws the ball away because he's afraid of being hit. You know, it takes a lot more than just being able to throw a football.
Right, right. You got to be built for show and go.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's a double thing. Some are vice versa or one or the other.
And again, there's aspects. Like I say, there's, you know, hitting, it's like hitting a home run. You know, it's like baseball. They talk about 5-tool player. You can run. You know, wrestling's the same way. You know, look, cutting a promo, being able to wrestle, and having a good character, and being a good wrestler, and that's the only thing you got, is not going to get you as far as being great on the microphone and having a character.
Right.
Kevin Kross started with a great character, looked good, and was fantastic on the microphone.
Right.
And it was, you know, a shooter type thing. He didn't do a lot. He was a big guy, but nobody confused him with Daniel Bryan. He was a big guy. Well, he's 6'4", you know. Batista's a big guy. There's a lot of guys 6'4", especially in the WWE. But he had something special about him that people were able to mold him, or a guy like me was able to say, this guy's is going to the moon. Well,
right. So talking about Killer Kross, Kevin Kross, which tonight he debuts. I haven't seen it yet, but you said Joey saw it on NXT. That's got to be a huge win. I mean, number one, from seeing him first come in, like you knew that he had that it factor about him. But then if you go behind the scenes, you saw the work that he put in, not only just to build himself, but to hone his craft. What is it that stood out to you when you first met him?
Well, the first day I remember he stepped in, and I think he had like I think it was a Chaparral Wrestling T-shirt. So I thought he was local. He wasn't, but he talked about, I believe he was about 29 at the time, and he walked in and he talked about he have his training, and back east he would get in a lot of, like, you know, blood sport type fights like that. And even though he would train MMA style stuff every day, he would find himself, after he got home, going on the YouTube and watching a lot of wrestling from Japan, some of the shoot fighty type stuff. And he felt at his age, 29, 30 years old, that if he was going to give it a try, now was the time to do it. So he signed up, and immediately we saw a guy with some talent. But again, we didn't really know his character. We were talking about the name, and, you know, it was Kevin Kross. And I told him, well, if it's Kevin, it should be, the Kross should be the K. So I should get the credit for the K in Kross.
Okay.
C. Okay. And he went with Kevin Kross. He later changed it up to Killer Kross. But we brought him along slow. And, you know, being as my personal assistant, we were able to get him involved in situations to where he didn't have to sell a lot. He could punish people. He can be somebody that we can groom. You know, we were looking for the next Tyshawn Prince, who was our big monster heel champion,
Right.
who became a babyface. But Tyshawn was the big monster that, you know, Alcatraz passed the torch to him. And as Kross continued to grow, we put him in like our Against All Odds Rumble match, where he didn't win, but he probably threw out more people so people could take notice. Then we had, when we were still doing that feud with Rocky, we had like Team Joe against Team Rocky. And of course, Kross was on Team Joe. And of course, you know, he was one of the final survivors. It was kind of like a Survivor Series type thing, survival of the fittest. So Kevin was always put in a position to succeed. Nobody said, okay, we're going to make this guy undefeated, and then we're going to make him the champ, and then for a year and a half, he's going to still be undefeated. It just, you know.
Organically, right? Yeah.
You know, he was getting over. I remember the time, and he was at the arena, you know, in front of 100, 120 people, and he came out, and he had just appeared on Monday Night Raw.
Right.
Okay, he was doing the thing with the primetime players. He didn't do anything. They basically grabbed him and threw him over the top rope. But now he became the FSW fans guy. It's like, hey, one of the guys we support, he was on WWE, even though he didn't do anything.
Right.
Okay? So I remember it's like, Kevin, you know, you're a heel. We need you to, you know, get the heat. And I remember the interview. I remember the promo in the ring where he basically said he was going to lock the doors of the arena and he was going to beat the shit out of every single fan in attendance, and they still cheered him.
Right.
Okay? So at that time, we were moving into him with a feud with Paulie Cover, who we made the commissioner, and at that point, we had to make Paulie the heel because there's no way Paulie could be the good guy because Paulie, in his eyes, was the good guy, but there was nothing we could do. It was so organic that Kevin was now the most popular wrestler in FSW. And accordingly, we had now had to put him in against heels so where people can get behind him. And then he was just on the fast track to where, you know, Brian Cage's time was done. And, you know, he did the time-honored tradition. And then Kevin Kross had a very long reign as heavyweight champ.
Yeah, no, I think that's a beautiful thing. And like it's believable. The whole story was believable. The buildup was believable. And yeah, I think that I give you credit for that because had it not been built like that at FSW, he doesn't go to AAA and have the same character. Like, I don't know how you pitch, you know, this is who I want to be here. You know, it kind of started from, you know, the mind of Joe Defalco and FSW as far as the direction he was headed.
He had, you know, I'll give him credit. He had a lot of ideas, you know, moving. And as for a young guy, he was more than happy to share those ideas. Mm-hmm. And some were crazy, out of this world ideas that we never used. But the key was when Global Force Wrestling came out and Paulie had become friendly with Jeff Jarrett. And when they decided to run out here, they wanted somebody to represent Vegas. So between Paulie and myself, obviously, Kevin Kross was the guy that we were looking to become the star.
As in this Friday, Orleans Arena, I choose Kevin Kross to represent future stars of wrestling.
Sanjay Dutt, who now works for WWE, worked for Impact, he was Jarrett's right-hand guy. So while we were assisting Global Force throughout the entire process, Jeff Jarrett wasn't really involved in the day-to-day. So I got to be kind of friendly with Sanjay. And then we started talking about Kevin. And, you know, he was stunned that Kevin was probably barely, from the day he started training, less than a year and a half. Because the hardest thing to get is somebody to have a character and a gimmick. And they didn't care about his wrestling at all. They were just stunned that they saw star written all over him.
Right.
And Jeff Jarrett went from Global Force and then took over Impact. He brought Sanjay with him. When Jarrett was fired, whatever happened in Impact, Sanjay became like the number 2 to Scott D'Amore. And one of the first signings they had was Kevin Kross. And then they pushed him to the moon, you know, right when he came in. And, you know, guys were pitching for him. And through Lucha Underground, where Kevin worked, you know, he got pushed hard. Guys like Cage and John Morrison and PJ Black liked him a lot. And they really went to bat with a lot of the companies saying, you need to sign this guy. You need to sign this guy. And, you know, Conan Storm, Disco Inferno, you know, he was involved in a lot of Kevin's early training. You know, if you go on the podcast and listen to stuff, he was pitching Kevin Kross before anybody knew who he was. Conan finally took listen, and Conan booked him in AAA.
Right.
So, you know, it was a lot of the FSW connections. Obviously, Kevin, you know, made himself, put him in fantastic shape. And we were all stunned, but unbelievably, that he was able to really keep that character in Impact.
Right. Once they.
And Lucha Underground and AAA. And we knew he had been talking with the Fed, but we felt, and even I felt, was like, you don't want to go there, bro. You know, they're going to change you up. And somehow, some way, you know, he's different than a lot of people, you know, just his character-wise. That Triple H, Regal, they like what they saw. And the Kevin Kross you see is basically the Kevin Kross that's been wrestling since day one in FSW. The character, you know, he had his girlfriend, but he's one guy from day one to now 6 years, maybe 5. I'm not even sure, about 2015-ish, 2014, that Kevin Kross has basically never had to change and be different for the company he worked for.
Right. No, and I think that's a testament to, like, he's done so much work that you look at his social media and just continue to build that character. It's hard to stray away from that. Like when you go to his Instagram and you see who he is, like you can't.
He's the creator. All the promos that you see from these FSW guys now were never done before Kevin Kross.
Right. No, he took it to another
standard.
Yeah, he took it to another level.
Yeah, and he made some high quality promos with his phone. You know, he created his own music. Like he did all that himself. You know, his music is, he's the creator. You know, he didn't go on the internet and find somebody's music or get somebody to do it. You know, he did the keyboard himself. You know what I mean? It's like, he was a one-stop shop.
Yeah, that's dope, and it's kind of like a wearing many hats. So, a testament to anybody that's out there, like trying to get their spot. Like, you got to create opportunities. There was no sales opportunity at FSW till I said, "Hey, let me create a department." I mean, it was there, but you weren't handing out jobs and saying, "Hey, come on in." Like, he earned that spot. Shout out to Killer Kross, Karrion,
yeah.
Karrion Kross now. Like, hats off, definitely. Like, he's a fucking savage beast. He owes me $63, and hopefully
I believe it. That bastard.
Yeah.
I don't think he paid for a couple months of training too.
Right. So maybe we'll get that stimulus check from Kross now, but hopefully. So that's good. So with the talent that is in the business now, FSW, who do you see as the future that you have your eyes on now?
Well, before I get to the future, I also want to send out a shout out to Chris Bay.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Contract too. So, you know, that's the sad part. When March hit, it was a huge week, because that week, and I know Chris had signed like a month earlier, but the official announcements were made that 2 FSW homegrown talents trained from scratch. You know, as great as Sean Ricker and Brian Cage were, we didn't train him. We brought him in, Hammerstone, when they were barely in the business, and I'll take a lot of credit for helping those guys out, especially a Hammerstone, and he'll tell you. But Chris Bay and Kevin Kross started day one without having any knowledge of professional wrestling training.
Right.
Went through our system. Chris Bay moved from Virginia with $500 in his pocket and paid me for 3 months training, which is now it's way higher than 500 for 3 months. But Chris was a guy, I didn't have a job, didn't want to work because it would interfere with his training and stuff. He struggled a lot, and it's, you know, great to see that, you know, you normally don't recommend what Chris Bay did, because he basically put all his eggs in one basket.
Right.
And fortunately for him, it came through.
Well, I put it like he put in the work, definitely. Like, and you saw him. You just see his growth from the time he was there. Like, he put in the work and obviously went all in, kind of when I was talking about Kyle Hawk as well. Like, go all in, but he's put in some major work, and you could see the huge change from when he started to now. And I think even watching his last night against Willie Mack, he's been featured on every episode. It's not like he just got signed and they're going to use him time to time. Like, he's been featured.
Yeah, I got to say, I was a little disappointed with Chris Bay on the show. The crowd really wasn't into him at that show.
Yeah, they weren't popping for him, but
Yeah,
maybe,
I don't know what was up with that,
yeah,
But moving into the future,
right. Shout out to
know,
Chris Bay. Like,
shout
congrats,
out.
man.
Yes, absolutely.
Amazing.
We love Chris.
Yeah. So the
moving-
future, Killer Kross, real quick, did you check out the Kyle Hawk interview?
Yes, I did.
Do you have any feedback on that you want to speak on real quick?
Well, I spoke to him about certain issues, personal backstage stuff that is discussed about somebody whose character he doesn't think is working. Again, it's a matter of opinion. Don't really need to be said, because as great as Kyle Hawk is doing right now, 4 months ago, he didn't have a character at all and nobody gave a shit. It's like, you want to take the unguided, who, believe me, there was a lot of work that went to it. They had the idea. I put my hand in there to I believe, because the issue initially with them going to the unguided was a lot of people, I believe, knew it was Damian Drake and Matt Vandergriff.
All right. Can you do me a favor real quick? Can you adjust the camera?
Am I
I don't know if you're sinking into the chair or.
Yeah, it's my bad crappy couch. Okay. So they were frustrated because, some of our hardcore fans didn't know who they were. And I didn't think it really mattered. So we finally came to the decision when Damian Drake worked Championship Wrestling from Hollywood and basically came out with the same mask that he wore in FSW. It's like, I know a lot of people didn't see it, but you just burned the gimmick of that. Now, in that case, we've incorporated new people into it, but the main two guys are now the main focus. Everybody knows who they are, and you're never going to discount their wrestling abilities.
Right.
They're creating a new character. Unfortunately, they haven't really had a lot of opportunity because everything's been closed down. So those guys are a great addition to the tag team. It's going to be curious to see who the other members of the Unguided are. So this is one of my favorite new storylines that are coming out. So I totally disagree with what Kyle Hawk said about them. Yeah, maybe there was some issues initially just because of the confusion. They felt they should be, exposed sooner. I felt it would mean more later on, to where, if you unmask and you beat a low card tag team, I don't think anybody cares.
Right.
They like you. The idea is we're trying to become different characters. To me, beating a top-notch FSW tag team and then unmasking or costing said team the tag titles and then unmasking, now you have a reason to dislike the two guys you liked.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
No, I get it.
So it's in such an infancy, their characters, that let's let it play out.
Yeah. No, I mean, that was my thing. It's like, you got to build this thing up and give it time to grow. What's going on back there? Was the cat jumping around? What's
No,
happening?
the wife was like, wow, it's been 2 hours. And it was like, well, it got cut off a few times that we had to call back. So
Yeah.
it's only been like an hour and 35 minutes.
I apologize for that.
No, not at all.
So that's Kyle Hawk's opinion. I mean, he's very opinion.
And that's fine. I have no problem in most cases. But again, it's like, how do the Unguided respond? It's like, why don't you focus on who you're involved with now?
Right.
You know what I mean? It's like, do they respond to you? Are you going to get a tag partner and we're going to have a match? Let's worry about that down the line. You want to call them out? You want to call out Ice Williams? You want the No Limits title? All right, let's go. Let's get something going. If he can generate enough heat, Ice Williams is going to need an opponent. The way it looks right now, a guy like Funny Bones, the next for Ice Williams.
Next up. All right. Well, I'm supposed to have Unguided on this weekend.
So you can tell them what I said. So there you go.
There you go. So when we talk about the future, like who do you see stepping up, being a bright star, not only in FSW, but possibly transition to the next level?
Well, that's a great question, because generally when the belt changes hands, the question becomes who's next in line to take the title.
Right.
You always want to have that opportunity. When Kross had it, it went to Sean Ricker. We felt the time frame, the same thing. Hardy got it. Cage was needing it. Then it was Kross. Then we progressed to Ricker. And then we felt it was time for Hammerstone. And when it was time for Hammerstone, the guy that we expected doesn't work for FSW anymore. His name's Carl Fredericks.
Mm-hmm.
Carl was a guy trained by Luster from the Reno Scum, and Carl was generating a lot of buzz. But Carl was similar to what I would say to Shogun Jones, that we see a lot of potential, but we don't feel he's ready just yet. So the idea was, Hammerstone's going to get a nice run. That's what makes our belt very prestigious, that we don't change the titles every 2 months.
Right.
The title holder is about a year. So there's a long reign going.
Didn't Young Boy have the title once?
Well, yeah, for about a week or two. That's another story in itself. Right. That's an interesting story. That idea was pitched to me, and we can talk about that next time you have it.
All right. Sounds good. I'm
about
interested.
The future. Guys like Ice Williams, he just needs to get a lot more reps. He needs to get the experience. Shogun Jones, he's in a position right now because of the situation he was involved with Hammerstone and Graves. We got Kenny King into the mix. What better than for a young wrestler trying to make it in the business, having Kenny King as your mentor?
Oh, yeah.
But the one name that really sticks out to me, because, okay, we progressed from Hammerstone. With Carl Fredericks gone, there was only one other option, and that was Chris Bay. Where then all of a sudden you hear some people like, oh, he's only 150 pounds. How can he be the heavyweight champion? And it's like, Shawn Michaels was the heavyweight champion. The heavyweight champion is the guy who deserves to lead your company and is the best representative. I'll put Chris Bay in a weightlifting contest with most of our guys that are over 200 pounds, and I bet you Chris Bay still outlifts them.
Right.
One of the strongest 150-pound kids I've ever seen in my life. So now Chris Bay has the title. So now he has it, pretty close to about a year, and we feel the time has come, and there was a couple of options. And the one option is still the option that I look forward to, but we felt at the time he's worked hard. He got himself over. Graves becomes the next champion, and Graves held the Nevada State title, had some great matches. He was involved with Bay, and when they did the Nevada State title with Owen, Graves and Hammerstone were locked at the hip until Hammerstone won the belt. Most people thought Graves was going to turn. Hammerstone turned out to be the better deal.
Right.
Feuded, but Hammerstone was at a whole different level than Graves. And from the time Hammerstone first won the belt to now Graves winning the belt, he became one of our most popular wrestlers. They really bought into him, the gladiator 300 type beast. Didn't do a lot of talking. His fist did his talking. And I liked him because, Graves is also kind of a funny guy in a sarcastic way, and we felt he's deserving. The question became, okay, once Graves' run is done, who are we looking at? And the one name that keeps coming up is Defalco. And Defalco has the lineage. He doesn't have tons of experience, but he's as good as there is. He's awesome. We've had numerous conversations. I love the dude. The problem was he became Nevada State champion, and because of issues, wasn't able to really be around FSW a lot. You know, obviously his dad's Rikishi. They do the Samoan Dynasty gimmick. They travel. They get paid to go do things. You know, when dad calls,
You got to go.
you got to go.
Right.
So we're trying to reach an agreement to where we can get him more often, because we can't have someone represent us that's not going to be there.
Right.
So, you know, there's a lot of guys that are deserving. And there's the numerous guys, the Travers, Bugattis, Romeros. They've had pushes up, down, up, down. You know, now like Ice and Shogun, you know, Douglas James, obviously, he's in Nevada State. You know, he's been banged up. You know, Hammerstone's always a threat for every title, you know, tag titles again. But, you know, Sefa's definitely a guy, if we can get going sometime soon in 2020, you know, would love to see him as a mainstay in our company. Now, does that mean he's next in line? No idea at this point.
Right.
Trying to run shows, but he's definitely a guy whose name will be brought up very frequently as someone that we feel, you know, could carry the belt. You know,
Right.
when he had the match and his dad showed up and he beat Graves for the Nevada State, great moment. You know, the Against All Odds Rumble when him and Bay, you know, there's so many good matches. Sefa and Bay is a great match to see. Sefa and Hammerstone, great match to see. You know, a rematch with Sefa and Graves. So, you know, there's a lot of good stuff on the horizon. You know, there's a lot of young talent. They're just looking to break through. They're just trying to get on those casino shows. You
Right.
know, roster is fantastic. So,
Well, I think, I think there's tons of talent, and like a lot of it, you're just watching their growth and just seeing them fall into their positions. And I think it's there. I don't think there's not many people that I would question having the strap. I'd be a fan if Kyle Hawk got it, but I know that there's growth for everybody to get there. But everybody's got their favorites, right?
absolutely. If you ask our fans, you know, it's funny. You know, some people love Ice Williams, some people hate Ice Williams.
Right.
The old fans love Remy Marcel. There's a lot of the newer ones who hate Remy Marcel. You know, Remy's supposed to be a heel. Ice Williams is supposed to be babyface. In 2020, there's a lot more gray areas.
Right.
And Ice Williams was beloved until, you know, he basically attacked Damian Drake and grabbed the belt, and kind of his cockiness turned off a lot of people. Now he's still got a huge fan support, but now he's got a lot of people that can't stand the fucker.
Right.
You know, and that's okay. You know, our fans come there as long as they're respectful. You know, I know there's some of the wrestlers that get heated that they're supposed to be liked. If somebody jabbers at them, they get all upset about it. But it's like, the fact of the matter is that they care enough about you to react. Who cares?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I think, and also because it's such a close-knit family, it's hard to boo somebody that you respect. And it's like, do I boo him or do I give him a dap? Or
Right. And that becomes the issue.
Right.
Or, you know, somebody brings friends. Well, they don't want to boo their friend.
Right.
That's going to help them.
Right.
If you boo their friend.
Right.
You know, moving ahead, it's like, you know, they're so it's so stagnant. It's like Kyle hits me up, you know, hey, I got some ideas I wanted to throw, and I'm like, dude, you know, at this point it's pointless, because, you know, if the governor said we can't have anything going on with more than 50 people, I will run a show the next day with 50 people separated, because that's what we have to do, because we're told 6 feet away, wear a mask. Well, then why can't my family of 4 sit together, and then we space out 2 chairs, we take them out, and 6 feet apart, we can easily fit 70 people in our school that way. Obviously, we can't do a show at Samstown. You know, I went on our fan page and I sent it out. Hey, we're looking to do an invitation only to our fans who come all the time, 50 people.
Right.
You know, everybody makes a few dollars. We charge $25. We're not going to charge more. We charge $25 for front row. So we're going to go across the board and just charge $25. It brings money in for the guys. It brings money in for the school, because we may not have to pay full rent, but we still got to pay the cams, regardless of whether we're open or not. And, I just got the call. Our anniversary show in June is now canceled at Sam's Town. We expected it, but now it's confirmed. So our next big show is, of course, going to be our anniversary show because that was the next show anyway. But now July, is it August? We don't know. And it's like, this is just crazy to me that what's going on. It's just like mind-boggling.
Yeah. I mean, because it's so much uncertainty, but I think at the end of the day, there's got to be some way to keep storylines going, to keep excitement going, to keep, some innovation.
Well, there's certain stuff that we created that we were going with, and I made, a couple of decisions on some stories that were being told to move past, because Kyle Hawk, for example, he was feuding with Hero Lou,
right?
Up and coming Samoan star. The crowd's really getting behind him. He had some good matches with Kyle Hawk, and Kyle Hawk did a good job making Hero Lou. But 3 or 4 months later, with two guys on the rise, do we really need to go back to that since we've already seen it? I think Hero Lou needs somebody fresh, and I think Kyle Hawk needs to set his sights on Ice Williams. Now, Ice Williams has his sights set on Funny Bone after what happened at our last show at the Mecca.
Right.
So Kyle has time to really focus on the No Limits division and prove that he's deserving of being the next guy in line to go after the No Limits championship.
Well, tell me this, with this down period, do you ever think that maybe you just hit the reset button on everything?
My son brought that up like, hey, let's make every title vacant. And I'm like, oh, that's pointless. Why did somebody who earned something now lose it? It's no fault of theirs. We're not going to do a 30-day you didn't defend the title because nobody had any of the stuff. It's boring. How many tournaments we got to have? We got to have a tournament out of state, a tournament. Every match is going to be a tournament match on every show, and it's going to take 4 months to crown a new champion.
Right, but I mean, there's so many ideas that could happen, but the hunger of coming out of this thing is like, who's hungry? Like, come and get it. And if you deserve it, then you'll win it again. There's a lot of options. There
are, and the question is, it's also a good way to thin the herd, guys who are issues that, you put up with for a while. Hey, life has kind of changed over the years or over these few months. And it's like, you don't really want to be here. Good riddance.
Right.
There's, like we always said, there's 30, 40 guys, not counting the 10, 20, 30 a month who hit me up. And I got some really talented guys that want to come out here on a much more frequent basis. We use Andy Brown a good amount, and he always wants to come out here. The last time we used Andy Brown, he had a fantastic match with Hero Lou, made him look like a star. And Andy Brown just jumped in a car with Douglas James. He wasn't even booked to come out here hoping to get on an FSW show.
Right.
Doing whatever you asked him to do. He's got far more experience than Hero Lou, but he did what I needed him to do. That makes it very hard to not use that guy moving forward. I always talk about two of my favorite guys in tag team, Tito and Che. Love those guys. Been with us on and off for years. But because of the new groups that have come in, the Sky Highs, the Lights Camera Factions, the Unguided, it's really hard to fit Tito and Che. They actually came out and they worked the anniversary, the No Escape, and defeated the 1%,
mm-hmm.
and we haven't seen them since.
Right.
Because there's only so many spots. There's only so many tag teams. And if I don't have something concrete for them, it's kind of pointless to bring them in one off here, one off there, because we're trying to get that consistency. And there's so much talent, like people like, the WWE. Oh, they released this guy. They released that guy. It's no disrespect to the Heath Slaters of the world.
Right.
But the money they're looking for is not there anymore. Like, we don't know the type of attendance we can get at a Sam's Town show.
Right.
You know, I'll pay for Matt Hardy, but because Matt couldn't make the Mecca, he owes us a favor. He's going to do us a really good deal. Matt Hardy's a superstar. There's a difference. A lot of these guys who released in WWE love EC3. You know, he worked one of our shows back in the day. Super cool. Helped train, you know, him and Robbie E. Nothing but good things to say about those guys. But to bring them in now is going to be a very difficult process. Like when we do the Mecca, we've already incorporated a lot of our homegrown talent and then brought in some outside guys. And we still want to bring in Brian Pillman Jr., who's been wanting to work here. So if you're not good enough and you're getting spots and then you're not happy with those spots, well, or you don't think that the way the match is set up, that 4 people above you think we should do this and you feel, I don't care what you feel.
Right.
And that leads to issues because it makes for a bad locker room when an undercard guy wants to disrupt a tag match because he feels they're not getting enough.
So
and sometimes you don't need those guys.
So you say thin in the herd chopping. Some people are it might be on the chopping block coming up.
You know, again, as Kenny said, Joe's too nice.
Right.
On one part, we do a pre-show match that's an 8-man tag, but then the guys in the 8-man tag are complaining that they're in a throwaway match that they barely got in on. Right. Well, how about you're not in on it at all? You wear a fucking security shirt and you just stand and watch the show.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's like, no matter what you give, it isn't enough. You know, and I get people want to strive, but I always talk about it with young kids. They're delusional, realistic. You know, if you're not on the show, why is that? Who do you think you're better than? Or if you're not one of the top guys, which top guy do you think that you're better than that I'm not? Because in my opinion and in most people's opinion, they all agree. Now, if I'm totally incorrect and I'm missing something, please enlighten me.
Right. No, I agree with that. I say to anybody out there, you just kind of, I mean, you earn your spot, you know, I mean, and that comes from attitude, that comes from your work ethic, but right now, especially with all the downtime, it's a great time for FSW to innovate. It's a great time for the performers themselves the internet is still active, even though we dropped the conversation a few times. You can create whatever you want out there right now, and I think it's a good time to start doing so. Yeah,
and there's some people who stepped up, credit to the Unguided and Kyle Hawk. They have gotten themselves on social media all the time.
Right.
Putting out content. They did, the Unguided did some nice stuff on the strip and I like what they're doing, and I believe I can help them get to that next level. These are 2 guys that are already wrestling for Conan and AAA.
Right.
They're still striving for something bigger. And, as great a wrestler as Damian Drake was, he had his Midnight Marvel character and stuff. He's gotten older, he's grown up, and now he is looking to, take it to the next step.
Yeah. No, I definitely feel that. And like, if you could take a note out of Kevin Kross's page, is he flooded the internet with material. You might have got sick of seeing his stuff, but he put it out there. So like dropping a promo once a month or every 2 weeks, it's not going to get the job done. I think you got to get aggressive and just put your shit out there.
The guy I worked with in Arizona, his name was Tyson Tyler.
Mm-hmm.
And Tyson helped run the IWF. He was basically the main financial backer. He wrestled a little bit. He was trained by the guy Nykirk. We were doing a show, and before the show, a couple of weeks before the show, he's like, "Hey, bro, what's up with this Kevin Kross guy?" Didn't know who he was, never saw him. I'm like, "Well, what do you mean?" He's like, "I've been checking out some promos from this guy. How is he? Is he any good? The promos are great." I'm like, "Dude, he's been like training for like 3 months."
Right.
Like, but he took notice already, And Tyson was involved with Johnny the Bull, who's friends with Hugh Morris, who used to be down in WWE as the head trainer. And Tyson was the guy who got Kevin Kross his first tryout in WWE. And then Kevin got again when they did the Arnold Classic, and he went to like Indiana or wherever it was a couple of years ago. But Tyson saw him, and then we were doing like our first super show, which was kind of like the Mecca. We had the Young Bucks and Shane Strickland and ACH and Chris Hero and, you know, Drew Galloway, Drew McIntyre, whoever.
Right. WWE.
You know, guys that have all become superstars. And he put Kevin on the pre-show match just because he wanted to see him live for the first time. And then we used him again. And he loves Kevin, you know, but that was the first opportunity he saw, you know, Kross. And it was the same thing with Sanjay, was they saw
his promos,
these social media posts and promos. Like, who is this dude?
Right. Yeah, no, he created that, and he went all in. And I remember, like, a lot of times, even now, it's like, Jesus Christ, he's always posting shit. But I think that's what you got to do. You got to become obsessive and piss some people off sometime to get noticed. So a little note to anybody is step your shit up, like, put it out there, develop your character, and put it out there. Like, we'll buy it.
Nobody's going to give it to you, bro.
Right.
It's like, you know, if you're going to get it, FSW is definitely the place to be to try and get it. You know, D'Lo Brown runs talent relations and Impact. Oh, yeah, he's one of our trainers.
Right.
You know, I just got a message. Sean Davari, he was an agent in WWE until he just got furloughed. You don't think he knows people there that if you're awesome? You know, Sanjay Dutt was the guy who got Chris Bay the match on 205 Live when they were looking at talent in Vegas. And they were like, needed somebody for a dark match. Chris Bay was like there with a whole bunch of people. Sanjay Dutt was like, pick that guy. And shockingly enough, he wrestled on 205 Live. And then Chris was offered the contract on Impact, like within that week. So would Impact have signed him? Maybe, probably, could be. But now seeing that the WWE knows who he is, maybe it forced their hand and it got him signed a little sooner. You know what I mean? And it's about the connections that are in place. Sin Bodhi is a guest trainer at the developmental of NXT every couple of months. So is Kikutaro. We don't use Kikutaro as a wrestler, but he comes in here. He brings you know, the young boys from Japan. They train at our school, and he's involved. You know, as I said, Lacey Ryan's trained by Tom Howard. Tom trained Cena, Samoa Joe, and the Who's Who. Me and Tom are actually going to start our own podcast, you know, hopefully in the next couple of weeks.
I heard about
the Who's Who of the professional wrestling business. And there's so many of those people there. And then you got Kenny King. Thanks to Kenny, you know, Bay and Damian Drake, they got to have matches on Ring of Honor. So no matter where you go, we have a connection with.
Right. Well, I think that that's key. A little shout out to everybody. You got to market yourself. Anybody wants to come on this show, you got a platform. Like, do your thing. Let's take it to the next level. Shout out
Dave's
to
only charging you $50 a pop. You could get on the podcast.
Yeah, it's 200 words. 200 words. Shout out to Lacey Ryan. We didn't talk much about the female talent in FSW, but you see a lot of intergender match because there's not a lot of active female wrestlers right now. Is that true?
No, that isn't. I don't think that's true.
No.
But I think there's a limited amount of very, very good women wrestlers.
Okay.
And, you know, no disrespect to a lot of our talent, but Lacey Ryan is major league ready. You know, she wrestled Tessa Blanchard, and she proved she can go toe-to-toe with her. At the Impact tapings, of course, she got on. D'Lo knows her and knows that she is extremely talented, and she had an excellent match with Jordan Grace. And Impact was very respectful, and they didn't make it that typical, okay, we're going to use that Las Vegas talent in the Vegas show, and we're going to have them get smashed. No, it was Jordan Grace was the Impact Women's Champion, and they had a 50-50 match because they saw the skill level of Lacey Ryan. And the thing is, we have Maserati, we have Sandra Moon. You know, Maserati has improved tenfold as a wrestler. You know, she was always a fantastic manager, valet. Sandra Moon's only 18 years old.
Right.
So she's got a long way to go, but for 18 years old, she's fantastic. She still has a ways to go. So in order for Lacey to get better, she can't work the same people over and over.
Right,
I'm
makes sense.
a huge fan of intergender matches, but Lacey kind of reminds me of China back in the day. When you watch China wrestle, not that they're built similarly, China was more of the bodybuilder type, but when China was feuding with Chris Jericho, nobody watched that match and like, oh, this is bullshit. There's no way China could beat Chris Jericho up. China was made to believe that she can go. And when Lacey Ryan wrestled Owen Travers, holy shit, like, looked like she was beating the crap out of Owen Travers.
Right, yeah, true,
She
believable.
lays it in. She ain't messing around, you know, and that's usually what the issues in some of the women's wrestling that you see, that they're afraid and they kind of lighten up. Lacey doesn't, and in most cases in training, obviously the women train with the men, and we've even seen it there. We even had one of the older girls that worked with us. She's not old, but she was young, and she broke Bugatti's nose in training because she was, you know, it happened. It was an accident. She laid it in. But when she wrestled other girls, she was way more timid.
Okay.
And when they wrestle matches, they become more timid, and it really affects the flow of the match. So the thing is, as women's champion, if there's not somebody to wrestle, in some cases, Maserati can just be Bugatti's manager and get involved that day. Lacey Ryan, as good as she is, I can't keep her off the show. She's too good.
Right.
She wants reps and she wants to get better. So I'm always trying my best. And we've used Bryn Thorne from Arizona, and we've used a couple of others that we try to get some other women in, so it just doesn't become the same three girls in a round robin best of 21 tournament, you know?
Right. So we're here talking about wrestling. We're talking about the school. We're talking about the women talent that are there. If you're a female out there and you're interested in professional wrestling, come on down to FSW and we'll get you signed up, right?
Well, Maserati started with us. She got to go to China and wrestle there. Sandra Moon started out at our kids class at 14, 15 years old. Now she's 18 and she's part of the main roster with her brother who started in the kids class with us, Lazarus. You know, Spider Warrior was a kids class kid. So if you're a kid, we've had a couple of the females who were in our juniors division that they got to wrestle on a FSW Future Shock show, which is featuring a lot of our younger talent. And Dana Lynn got to wrestle, Abby got to wrestle, and these girls are 15, 16 years old and looking to take the next step. So we definitely have a good amount of females, more so now than we ever have in the past. And, you know, I guess we can credit the WWE Women's Revolution,
Right.
of, you know, the Sasha Banks and the Charlotte Flairs and the Baileys. And it's really gotten, you know, girls interested. You know, back in the day at the kids class, there'd be a brother and a sister. The brother would, you know, try it out, and the sister would sit and watch. And then after, you know, a couple of times, she would never be there again.
Right. Yeah. It's definitely a game changer, and I think it's all for the good. And you look at what Alita,
Yes, there you go. That's the newest one. She started. They're going to have a Netflix documentary show called Worn Stories that they basically are going to focus on her from as a trainee to her very first match that she had right before the pandemic.
Right, and she's a beauty queen.
Yeah, she came in like, I think, third or something for Teen Nevada or something like that.
Okay. Yeah, so shout out to her. Definitely doing things, but there's a lot of opportunities. So I know I'm going to do my best to chop this into something that is tangible and
3 hour specials.
Tangible, consumable. We had a couple things there, but definitely looking forward to the comeback of FSW. I know we're working on the concessions at the warehouse there at FSW Arena. We're working on sponsorships. We are working on New look, revamping lights. There's a lot of stuff.
Yeah,
coming.
we're trying to upgrade some stuff. You know, any potential sponsors, you know, lvfuturestars@yahoo.com or whatever yours is. They could talk to either one of us.
Yeah. Make sure, yeah. Just reach out, and I'm doing some spots with doing sponsorship spotlight video next week, where kind of put some behind the scenes of being a sponsor. So we got some cool stuff coming, but I'm looking forward to seeing the next level and the evolution of what's going to happen here. Everybody that interested in Joe, he's got stories to tell. This motherfucker could talk all day, every day.
All day.
You could catch him on Bad Boys of Podcasting every Tuesday.
The Vegas Bad Boys.
The Vegas. What did I say?
I don't know. The Bad Boys of Podcasting.
Oh, my bad. The Vegas Bad Boys.
That's the one with Will Smith and Martin Lawrence. I haven't been invited on that one yet.
He was in there. The Vegas Bad Boys of Podcasting every Tuesday in the Defalco files. He is, and that's available on all platforms. But pretty much you give the lineage of the championships, kind of the business, and who knows where it's going to go from there. But it's definitely, we're in week 2, and it's definitely good stuff. So shout out to the Las Vegas Bad Boys Podcast.
There you go. They're all right. Nice guys.
We can all get along, huh? They got the interview before I did, but you know,
that's okay.
Hey, shit happens. Do you have?
They offered me the prime spot, the Defalco files. You know?
Right, right. Okay, more incentive.
Your podcast, I'm still under you. You know what I mean? I'm the star of the other one, as I should be.
All right, true that. I apologize for the disrespect that's coming from here.
Well, you know, if you wanted to get more listeners, viewers, you would have had your Shooting the Shit hosted by Joe Defalco with his co-host David Different.
All right, that's how it works. Okay.
Yeah, you know.
Well, maybe I'll just change the wording on this one and put it up.
You know, you could do that. I have so much to talk. It doesn't matter if I'm on 2 shows for 3 hours.
Right. All right. The Joe Show. So yeah, we can definitely work some stuff. I got some great ideas and I'll pitch those later. Do you have anything that you want to say to America out there?
We are ready to go. We are just waiting for our governor to give us the okay. You know, I'm even purchasing freaking sanitizer machines so people can just trying to do the right thing. You know, I have my own opinions of it, but I don't need to force that upon anybody like some people. And, you know, we're just going to wait patiently. And it seems like things are going to happen, you know, sooner than later. But, you know, if we can't get things going by June 1st, then fuck it. We're going to do an empty arena show just to do it.
There you go. There you have it. Joe, it's been a pleasure. Like I said, it's been a couple hours, man. I see it's getting darker over there. Your light, or somebody turned off the light or something.
Yeah, I missed out on like 4 poker tournaments already.
I apologize for that. So thank you again. And check out futurestarsofwrestling.com, the brand new revamped website.
Oh, it looks awesome. We'll give Tom Crawford some good credit. Looks amazing.
There he is. Yeah, it's beautiful for all the updates and everything. And I think Joe's doing a State of the Union address soon that'll be coming out and maybe an exclusive on this show. But who knows? Thank you for tuning in. And that's the difference.